All right, shalom, everybody, and welcome back to another Sister for Sisters story time session with your favorite sister, Shia the Demon Slayer. So, still on the topic of child sacrifice of the firstborn, I want to go over the Watchers, Demopedia Wiki on the Gregory sounds like. All right. So the Grigori or Watchers, Theodosian from the root of Hebrew, awake, watchful. Those who are awake, Chaldean, guard or watcher, are a collection of jinn who were once in servitude to God. These were the jinn who banded together, swore a collective oath, and under the direction of Samyaza went directly against God's will by choosing to marry human women and father a race of children known as the Mugharribun, who by nature were destructive and murderous. The Grigori went on to teach humans the secrets of heaven, such as astrology, cosmetology, gemology, and weaponsmithing. For these sins, they were exiled from heaven, hunted down, and punished. Most sources say that there are 200, but typically only name the leaders, the chief of tens. They are described as looking like large humans who never slept and usually remained silent. Hmm. Okay. That's on the Watchers. Now I want to read Revelations chapter 7. We must usher in the end, as it is written. Yes. So, Revelations chapter 7, King James Version. And after these things, I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the four angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. And of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. And all the angels stood round about the throne and about the elders and the four beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces and worshiped God, saying, Amen. Blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto our God forever and ever. Amen. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, What are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them unto living fountains of water, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Something to look forward to. Unless you're looking forward to the hellhounds now. They're out there barking right now. But let us go ahead and continue. There's a lot of sacrificing still going on until this day, and the devil will not stop until he's had his head cracked open. So, let's get a little bit on Topeth. See, where is this? Okay. Tophet, for the sacred precinct of Carthage with that name. Tophet or Topheth, Hatopheth in Hebrew, is believed to be a location in Jerusalem in the valley of Hinnom, where the Canaanites sacrificed children to the god Moloch by burning them alive. After the practice of child sacrifice was outlawed by King Josiah, the valley became a refuse site where animal carcasses, waste, and the bodies of criminals were dumped, with fires permanently burning to keep disease at bay. Tophet became a synonym for hell. The name is possibly derived from the Hebrew toph, equaling drum, because drums were used to drown the cries of children, but possibly connected with a root word meaning burning, the place of burning. In the King James Version, the form Tophet is used except in 2 Kings 23:10, where it is spelled Tophet. The following references are made in the Hebrew Bible. They have built the high places of Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire. Jeremiah 7:31. On account of this abomination, Topheth and the valley of Hinnom should be called the valley of slaughter, for they shall bury in Topheth till there be no place to bury. The Revised Version margin, because there shall be no place else, Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 32. See also Jeremiah 19:6, 19 verses 12 through 14. Josiah is said to have defiled Topheth as part of his great religious reforms in 2 Kings 23:10. The site would seem to have been either at the lower end of the Valley of Hinnom, near where Akeldama is now pointed out, or in the open ground where this valley joins the Kidron Valley. Literary references. Robert Browning's poem, stanza 24. And more than that, a furlong on, why there, what bad use was that engine for, that wheel or brake, not wheel, that harrow fit to reel men's bodies out like silk, with all the air of Topheth's tool on earth left unaware, or brought to sharpen its rusty teeth of steel. John Milton in Paradise Lost, Book 1. Nor content with such audacious neighborhood, the wisest heart of Solomon, Moloch, led by fraud, to build his temple right against the temple of God on that opprobrious hill, and made his grove the pleasant valley of Hinnom, Tophet thence, and black Gehenna, called the type of hell. John Donne, from a sermon preached to the Earl of Carlisle, 1622, in John Donne, The Major Works, Oxford Paperbacks, page 320. When all is done, the hell of hells, the torment of torments, is the everlasting absence of God and the everlasting impossibility of returning to his presence. To fall out of the hands of the living God is a horror beyond our expression, beyond our imagination. What Tophet is not paradise, what brimstone is not amber, what gnashing is not a comfort, what gnawing of the worm is not a tickling, what torment is not a marriage bed to this damnation, to be secluded eternally, eternally from the sight of God. The House of the Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Another phenomenon, still more strikingly modern, was a package of lucifer matches, which in old times would have been thought actually to borrow their instantaneous flame from the nether fires of Tophet. Thomas Carlyle's fictional autobiography, Sardis, The Everlasting No. All at once, there rose a thought in me, and I asked myself, what art thou afraid of? Wherefore, like a coward, dost thou forever pip and whimper, and go cowering and trembling? This despicable bite, what is the sum total of the worst that lies before thee? Death, well, death, and say the pangs of Tophet too, and all that the devil and man may, will, or can do against thee. Moby Dick, or The White Whale by Herman Melville, chapter 15. It's ominous, thinks I, a coffin my innkeeper upon landing my first whaling port, tombstones staring at me in the whaleman's chapel, and here a gallows, and a pair of prodigious black pots too. Are these last throwing out oblique hints touching Tophet? By the engine stood a dark, motionless being, a sooty and grimy embodiment of tallness in a sort of trance, with a heap of coals by his side. It was the engine man. The isolation of his manner and color lent him the appearance of a creature from Tophet, who had strayed into the pellucid smokelessness of this region of yellow grain and pale soil, with which he had nothing in common, to amaze and to discompose its aborigines. Test of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. O ye who tread the narrow way, by Tophet flare to judgment day. Be gentle when the heathen pray to Buddha at Kamakura. Kim by Rudy Kipling opens with the above excerpt of Thomas Hardy's poem, Buddha at Kamakura by Rudyard Kipling. O ye who tread the narrow way by Tophet Blair to Judgment Day. To the White People by Arthur Machen. Our Earth We Now Lament to See, a hymn by Charles Wesley. As listed on Abaddon's side, they mangled their own flesh and slay. Tophet is moved and opens wide its mouth for its enormous prey. Child sacrifice. Religion in Carthage. The religion of Carthage was a direct continuation of the polytheistic Phoenician religion with significant local modifications. A significant debate exists regarding the practice of sacrifice in the religion of Carthage. The Pantheon, Phoenician origins. Carthage derived the original core of its religion from Phoenicia. The Phoenician pantheon was presided over by the father of the gods. The goddess was the principal figure in the Phoenician pantheon. The system of gods and goddesses in Phoenician religion also influenced many other cultures. There are too many similarities to be overlooked. In some instances, the names of gods underwent very little change when they were borrowed. Even the legends maintained major similarities. Egyptian, Babylonian, Assyrian, Persian, and others had their influences on the Phoenician faith system as well as borrowed from it. The supreme divine couple was that of Tanit and Baal Haman. The goddess Astarte seems to have been popular in early times. At the height of its cosmopolitan era, Carthage seems to have hosted a large array of divinities from the neighboring civilizations of Greece, Egypt, and the Etruscan city-states. The caste of priests and acolytes. Surviving Punic texts are detailed enough to give a portrait of a very well organized caste of temple priests and acolytes performing different types of functions for a variety of prices. Priests were clean shaven, unlike most of the population. In the first centuries of the city, ritual celebrations included rhythmic dancing derived from Phoenician traditions. Punic stelae. Sippi and stelae of limestone are characteristic monuments of Punic art and religion, and are found throughout the Western Phoenician world in unbroken continuity, both historically and geographically. The majority was set up over urns containing the ashes of human sacrifices, which had been placed within open-air sanctuaries. Such sanctuaries constitute striking relics of the Western Mediterranean Phoenician or Punic civilization. One of the most important stelae was the Marsalis Tariff, found in the port of Marseille and originally from the temple of Baal Safan in Carthage. The Tariff regulated the payments to the priest for performing sacrifices and is close related to the normatives and provisions of the Leviticus. Child sacrifice. Carthage was described by its competitors as practicing child sacrifice. Plutarch, circa 46 through 120 AD, mentions the practice, as do Tertullian, Orosius, Diodorus, Siculus, and Philo. However, Livy and Polybius do not. The Hebrew Bible also mentions what appears to be child sacrifice practiced at a place called the Tophet, the roasting place, by the Canaanites, related to the Carthaginians. although there is to date no evidence of human sacrifice among the Canaanites. In former times, they, the Carthaginians, had been accustomed to sacrifice to this god the noblest of their sons, but more recently, secretly buying and nurturing children, they had sent these to the sacrifice. Some of these sources suggest that babies were roasted to death on a heated bronze statue, according to Diodorus Siculus. There was in their city a bronze image of Kronos extending its hands, palms up and sloping toward the ground, so that each of the children, when placed thereon, rolled down and fell into a sort of gaping pit filled with fire. The accuracy of such stories is disputed by some modern historians and archaeologists. Nevertheless, several apparent Tophets have been identified, chiefly a large one in Carthage dubbed the Tophet of Salambo, after the neighborhood where it was unearthed in 1921. Sites within Carthage and other Phoenician centers revealed the remains of infants and children in large numbers. Many historians interpret this as evidence for frequent and prominent child sacrifice to the god Baal Hammon. Greek, Roman, and Israelite writers refer to Phoenician child sacrifice. However, some historians have disputed this interpretation, suggesting instead that these were resting places for children miscarried or who died in infancy. The debate is ongoing among modern archaeologists and historians. Skeptics suggest that the bodies of children found in Carthaginian and Phoenician cemeteries were merely the cremated remains of children that died naturally. Sergio Ribiccini has argued that the Tophet was a child necropolis designed to receive the remains of infants who had died prematurely of sickness or other natural causes, and who for this reason were offered, quote unquote, to specific deities and buried in a place different from the one reserved for the ordinary dead. According to Lawrence and Wolff, there is a consensus among scholars in that Carthaginian children were sacrificed by their parents, who would make a vow to kill the next child if the gods would grant them a favor. For instance, that their shipment of goods were to arrive safely in a foreign port. They placed their children alive in the arms of a bronze statue of the Lady Tanit. The hands of the statue extended over a brazier into which the child fell once the flames had caused the limbs to contract and its mouth to open. The child was alive and conscious when burned. Philo specified that the sacrificed child was best loved. Later commentators have compared the accounts of child sacrifice in the Old Testament with similar ones from Greek and Latin sources, speaking of the offering of children by fire as sacrifices in the Punic city of Carthage, which was a Phoenician colony. Plutarchus, Diodorus Siculus, and Plutarch all mention burning of children as an offering to Kronos or Saturn, that is, to Baal Hammon, the chief god of Carthage. Issues and practices relating to Moloch and child sacrifice may also have been overemphasized for effect. After the Romans finally defeated Carthage and totally destroyed the city, they engaged in post-war propaganda to make their arch enemies seem cruel and less civilized. Motivations behind the sacrifices. Some authors, like Stager and Wolff, believe that the real purpose behind children's sacrifices was birth control. The fact that the preferred victims were male, however, exposes the weakness of this theory. The most plausible motivation was, according to available evidence, to establish a way of cementing the vertical and horizontal power relationship within the social structure. Evidence from archaeology. Most archaeologists accept that some sacrifices did occur. Lawrence E. Stager, professor of archaeology of Israel and director of the Shemitic Museum at Harvard University, who directed the excavations of the Carthage Tophet in the 1970s, takes the view based on ancient texts that infant sacrifice was practiced there. Stager is joined by Joseph Green, assistant director of the Shemitic Museum, a member of Stager's team in the excavations of Carthage, and author of the American Schools of Oriental Research's Punic Project Excavations. Child sacrifice in the context of Carthaginian religion, excavations in the Tophet. According to these scholars, in the Tophet of Salambo, Carthage, an estimated 20,000 urns were deposited between 400 BC and 200 BC, with the practice continuing until the early years of the Christian period. The urns contained the charred bones of newborns and, in some cases, the bones of fetuses and 2-year-olds. These double remains have been interpreted to mean that in the cases of stillborn babies, the parents would sacrifice their youngest child. There is a clear correlation between the frequency of sacrifice and the well-being of the city. In bad times, war, poor harvest, sacrifices became more frequent, indicating an increased assiduousness in seeking divine appeasement, or possibly a population controlling response to the reduction of available food in these bad times, or perhaps increased child mortality due to famine or disease. The area covered by the Tophet was probably over an acre and a half by the 4th century BC, with 9 different levels of burials. Archaeologists have also discovered evidence of child sacrifice in Sardinia and Sicily. Animal remains, mostly sheep and goats, found inside some of the Tophet urns strongly suggest that this was not a burial ground for children who died prematurely. The animals were sacrificed to the gods, presumably in place of children. One surviving inscription refers to the animal as a substitute. It is conjectured that the children unlucky enough not to have substitutes were also sacrificed and then buried in the Tophet. Tophet is a term derived from the Bible used to refer to a site near Jerusalem in which Canaanites and Israelites sacrificed children. It is now used as a general term for all such sacred sites. In Carthage, it was the location of the temple of the goddess Tanit and the necropolis. The Bible does not specify that the Israelite victims were buried, only burned, although the place of burning was probably adjacent to the place of burial. Indeed, soil in the Tophet of Salambo was found to be full of olive wood charcoal, probably from the sacrificial pyres. We have no idea how the Phoenicians themselves referred to the places of burning or burial, or to the practice itself, since no large body of Phoenician writing has come down to us. Evidence for and against the practice of child sacrifice. It has been argued by some modern scholars that evidence of Carthaginian child sacrifice is sketchy at best, and that it is far more likely to have been a Roman blood libel against the Carthaginians to justify their conquest and destruction. M. Hamed Hassin Fattar, director of research at the Institute of National Cultural Heritage, Tunisia, argues that the Tophet of Salambo, Carthage, was a cemetery for stillborns and infants who had died of natural causes and whose bodies were then cremated. Sergio Ribiccini has also argued that the Tophet was a child necropolis designed to receive the remains of infants who had died prematurely of sickness or other natural causes, and who for this reason were offered to specific deities and buried in a place different from the one reserved for the ordinary dead. He adds that this was probably part of an effort to ensure the benevolent protection of the same deities for the survivors. The few Carthaginian texts which have survived make no mention of child sacrifice, though Carthaginian votive steles, several in Egyptian style, display a priest carrying a living child, apparently to sacrifice. Conversely, work at Motia, an island off Sicily, which was home to a large Phoenician colony, showed that the bones of children buried in the local Tophet belonged to male children under the age of 5. There was no evidence of disease in these bones, which survived cremation. Okay, up next, we're going to talk about Marcus Pierce and Magnus Bane, shadow hunters, and what does the name Marcus have to do with the devil? So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.